Her story deals with a subculture of heavy metal music that some feel is sending a dangerous message to your kids.
The forces of evil on the dark side of devil right.
And I want to talk tonight about the devil and demons and witches and wizards.
And we just mix it up with hardcore and aggression and come out with something we think's an original sound.
Loud, fast, heavy, you know.
Well, what do you got?
What do you got?
You're listening to Riff Worship, the podcast that attempts to answer the age-old question, what makes a riff? Why do we care about riffs? Talking about maybe an album that covers riffs. We don't know. Some of us don't know. I'm one of your hosts, Austin Paulson. With me, as always, are the boys of summer, Dylan Adams, Justin Swindle. How we doing?
I'm doing great, Dylan. How are you?
I prefer the Atari's version over the Don Henley version.
Black flag sticker on a Cadillac.
Black flag sticker on a Cadillac. I forgot about that one.
Yeah. The one thing they changed about it.
Yeah.
Get him a credit.
All is well.
Is it? I mean, it's probably, you guys got to take it easy a little bit to this week.
Oh my God. There's another Eagles bit.
I didn't even catch that. We're doing things a little differently this episode. I'm excited about it. You, the listener, you clicked on the episode. You know what this is about. But Dylan and Swindle, they have no idea what we're talking about today.
Typical.
Nothing.
Typical of us. We ain't got no clue what's going on.
I've prepared a bunch of research for today's episode. I can say it's not technically a record, but it is a very singular thing that occurred, took the country by storm. We're going to cover a variety of topics today, from world history, geopolitics, crisis, humanitarianism, heavy metal. Any ideas what this might be about?
Is this the Satanic Panic?
It has something to do with it a little bit. I will cover that this episode.
All right.
If you would please maybe close your eyes for a second, because I've never done this. We're going to watch and listen to this in real time, and we're going to react to it. But go ahead and close your eyes. Think sugar plums and fairies before I hopefully get this right. I'm going to share this really quick.
Don't edit any of this out.
No, none of it. Puns and all.
Okay, go ahead.
Right. Jesus. Ugh.
Any thoughts so far?
Christ.
We can be strong, we are fire and stone, and we all want to touch a rainbow. But singers and songs will never change it alone. We are calling you, calling you. With the beating of a heart, the beginning with a start. Forever we will shine.
Did you clock the chorus yet? You got it?
Oh no, donuts.
It's
Spinal Tap.
This is the part you're gonna love.
Fuck. Oh man, wardrobe change. Matt's stoked.
Two drummers.
Murderer. Ugh.
Wow. So are you guys changed? Do you feel different?
Yeah.
Was this a
My
Bob Geldof thing?
immediate question is, do you all think Michael McCain told someone that he played in a band that wasn't Spinal Tap and he just like weaseled his way into that recording, or do y'all think they knew that he was in a fake movie metal band?
There were two of them there. It was two members of Spinal Tap there.
There sure were.
Yeah.
Oh, what? Was Nigel Tufnell also there?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That's first and foremost, everybody just looks like Kevin DeBro. Every single one of them. Like there's, and if it's not them, it's like very specific people that don't. Like I think both the Appice brothers are there.
They are,
right?
yeah. Vinny and Carmine are there.
Like, God, who else was there? Not
I have a list.
Lynch.
I have a list of people.
Jesus Christ. George Lynch was there, obviously.
Yep.
Looked like a young Zach Wilde at the tail end. Not.
No,
And
no
we
Zach Wilde. We have
Shreddy McDonut face is there.
Yep. I'll get into it. I'll give you the breakdown. But yeah, you just heard the charity single called Stars. I don't know if you caught that. It's called Stars.
Christ.
By the supergroup Hear and Aid. It was released in 1986. And Dylan, I'm sure, sounds like you knew about this. You've seen this before. Swindle, have you
I have.
ever heard of this song? Have you ever seen this video before?
Yeah.
Okay. Was it did I do this? Did I?
I'm sure I heard about, like, I don't remember specifically if they talked about it on, like, I Love the 80s or whatever, but I'm sure at some point I saw some VH1 thing that, like, talked about that.
That makes sense.
It's VH1 did something called, like, When Heavy Metal Ruled the World, and done in the early 2000s, and it was specifically about that era, like, we'll say 82 to like 88, right? When that was at its peak, what I would say most normal people back then would consider heavy metal before, the underground was really exposed.
What a weird way to say that.
Right. Did Bob Geldof have a hand in this one like he did the other ones?
No, but he inspired it. And
of course.
Yeah, right. So I can get into it, but yeah, any thoughts, any takeaways right out of the gate as we like kind of came at the end of that? Anything that you noticed, anything that you'd like to report? How you feeling in general?
Swindle, please go first. I know you've got a ton of shit.
They could have had more people play guitar solos.
Fuck.
They wrote a whole other song just for guitar solos.
I think that's like, it's maybe just under 8 minutes, like the total song, but at least like
6,
like 3 or 4 of that shit is like soloing, right?
Yeah, and they made sure to get about 5 seconds of drum solo in, so that was that was good. At least
in somewhere in Washington in 1986, 87, Kurt Cobain was like set up for this shit. He was like, I'll never put a fucking solo in anything that's longer than like 5 seconds. And it's not even a solo. And there's a reason that shit died. And that's like, just to see like how,
this was like pretty much the height of that, like, hair metal glam scene going on in LA, and where, I mean, it essentially took place. So like, it was very easy to rope in all these bands to record some of this shit. I don't know. I stumbled upon this like from a pretty young age, because like I definitely listened to a lot of this shit as I was getting into like heavy metal. I started kind of out in this area, so it wasn't long before I probably stumbled upon this on YouTube, and my brother and I would just like play this all the time. But there's a lot of backstory that goes into this, and I don't know. This was like certainly not the first charity song, as we've kind of like established, but it wasn't the last. But this was interesting, to say the least.
It sounds like a Dio song.
Yeah,
like
it's
straight up.
It sounds very heavily like Rainbow in the Dark.
Yeah.
Yes. And kind of the vocal cadence like is very Ronnie James Dio.
Well, you'd be surprised to know that essentially 3 members of Dio, including Ronnie James Dio, wrote this song, basically.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. What was it? RJD himself.
Vivian Campbell.
Thank you.
Jimmy
I was going
Bain.
to say pre Def Leppard Vivian Campbell.
Yep. It was. We'll get into it, but essentially it's like
Jesus Christ.
prime Dio, like right after Last in Line. They were recording their 3rd album, Sacred Heart, but we kind of have to go back like a decade essentially to like kind of establish ourselves here. So between 1930 and 1974, Ethiopia was ruled by Emperor Haile Selassie. Sorry, I'm going to mispronounce some names here. Until he was removed in a military coup. And so there was like post-revolution period where Lieutenant Colonel Mengistu Haile Mariam basically established Ethiopia as a Marxist-Leninist state, which remained in power until 1991. So the military...
my Marxist-Leninist
well, hold
guy.
on. Hold on. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. The military junta of Mengistu, known as the Derg, basically implemented a series of like collectivist economic policies, including the nationalization of land and industry. So they basically like part of these policies was like they like forced community relocation, which they would move all of these villages into like different parts of the country, and that disrupted agricultural production. So between 83 and 85, there was a pretty severe drought and widespread famine that occurred in Ethiopia, and particularly in the northern parts of the country called Tigray and Eritrean. I hope I pronounced that right. Which was Eritrean eventually gained independence, but it was still part of Ethiopia at this time. But because of the famine and drought, they estimate around maybe 400,000 to 1 million people probably lost their lives during this period. So while the drought played a role, some humanitarians, there's like a lot of people who would say that the famine was in a lot of ways political and kind of policy driven. During the famine, like I mentioned, these like kind of resettlement policies, they would take people from the northern part of the country and move them to the southern part. So like the northern part, they were essentially rebelling against this military-led government in Ethiopia. And so they moved them to the southern part. And so there was kind of like this like fight for autonomy. And so like the government, instead of putting money into like, helping prevent this famine, or like at least how bad it got, they were putting it into like the military and fighting the rebellion. So that kind of like played a hand into how severe it got. And so then there was also said that the military used scorched earth tactics, and they were like destroying crops and livestock and food stores. So yeah, it basically took all of this critical funding in preventing, how bad the severity of this got into, just fighting the rebellion and kind of like keeping this military-led government intact. So in like October of 1984, the BBC was kind of like the first to kind of share reports of the famine that was happening in Ethiopia. And it was like, again, this is like, there's no internet. So this is like the first time that people are really seeing like, the severity of this. They reported it as a biblical famine. And there was like graphic images and thousands of people in Ethiopia, including children, that were, facing malnutrition and starvation. So it's like, people aren't thinking about this, it's like, here's even still, I think that's certainly people are just kind of in their own lane. They have their blinders on. They're not thinking about what other people might be going through in other countries. So this is like a big network like the BBC showing this for the first time. And so one of the people actually viewing the report was Bob Geldof, who was the singer of the Irish band Boomtown Rats. He's kind of a fixture of the British music scene. He also portrayed Pink in the Pink Floyd movie, right? So he sees the report, and within maybe like a couple weeks, he teamed up with Midge Uri from Ultravox to write a charity song, and gathered some of the biggest names in music to create a supergroup called Band Aid. So on December 7th, 1984, they released the single Do They Know It's Christmas, which featured like a bunch of people like Bono and Boy George and George Michael and Sting and a ton of others, and quickly became like the biggest selling single in like UK history until like Elton John did the like tribute for Princess Diana like way later. But it was like super successful, super popular. I think Geldof said he like had hoped it would raise like maybe like 70,000 pounds for the famine relief, but within the first year, it apparently raised like 8 million pounds, which was like roughly between 11 to 14 million dollars at the time. So
Yeah.
weeks later, Harry Belafonte and a music manager by the name of Ken Cragen approached Lionel Richie, Quincy Jones, and Michael Jackson to write like an American answer to Band Aid. They wanted to do their own American version of it. So on January 28th, 1985, following the American Music Awards, which Richie hosted, they recorded, We Are the World, which featured like a bunch of, huge, massive stars at the time. Stevie Wonder, Bruce Springsteen, Cyndi Lauper, Paul Simon, just a ton of people. Again, released March 7th, 1985. One of the biggest fucking massive selling singles of all time. Won like 4 Grammys. I think they say it did around like maybe 60 million. Some reports say like above 80 million in humanitarian relief. So these were like massively successful singles that came out in the wake of all the famine that, was occurring in Ethiopia. They were like trying to raise funds for world hunger. And so while pop stars were essentially like taking the spotlight for their philanthropy, some people noticed that they were excluding, musicians of other genres. For around this time, as kind of Dylan mentioned earlier, like Satanic Panic was like in full swing. Like heavy metal was the subject of a lot of controversy. So like, you had the McMartin preschool investigations and eventual trial, the murder of Gary Lauwers. Richard Ramirez had just been like apprehended in 1985. It was just constant. It's in the media. Like there's this kind of negative connotation around heavy metal. And even like the PMRC had founded in May of 1985 and then had its infamous trials in August. And 9 of those songs that they had on their Filthy 15 list were all heavy metal songs. So heavy metal at the time was certainly experiencing popularity and commercial success. But I think it's safe to say that there was definitely like kind of like a weird tilted view towards it. I don't know if that's like, they say like, oh man, they left this out because the people didn't they didn't understand us, man. We were like these underdogs. We were like these dirty heavy metal people. But I don't know. At the same time, I feel like, I don't know if they were really like excluded. I probably weren't even like thought of to like do We Are the World. Like,
yeah,
hey, maybe it's just like easier to ask your friends and like people who would make a big impact. Like, hey, let's ask the biggest stars and this will definitely probably get the most impact.
Like obviously a lot of the shit they wrote about and has been talked about 80s hair metal was like a affectation. Like they made the way they like made themselves look the way they wanted to be perceived, but
right.
Being perceived that way doesn't really lend itself to like being chosen for a charity song. If people think that you're like out getting boozed up every night and throwing chairs out of hotel windows, like they're not going to be like, oh, maybe these are the people we should like ask to be in We Are the World.
Is Quincy Jones going to call the schmuck that wrote Talk Dirty to Me? Or like, that guy wrote Nebraska.
Right.
Yeah.
That guy wrote Born in the USA. Maybe I'll call this very nice fellow from Jersey, as opposed to this bleach blonde, like turd head.
Yeah. Hey,
like
this guy, like a pretty infamous car accident had already happened by this point.
Yeah.
So like, maybe not like the roster of people that you want to pick, but that's not to say that there aren't like genuine people that like care and want to do good things. But I don't know, let's be real. Like, let's get like these powerhouses in the like music world to like record this big hit and it's going to raise the most money. But essentially, some people felt like they were excluded. They noticed a lack of representation in their genre. So like around the time of like early 1985, they say the weekend of February 22nd, 1985, the Los Angeles-based radio station KLOS hosted a major on-air radiothon called Rock Relief for Africa. And so apparently the broadcast did really well. It raised roughly like $150,000 to $175,000 for the American Red Cross to support victims of the famine and other parts of Africa. It featured like appearances from people like Jackson Browne, Bonnie Raitt, and Rat. And wouldn't you know it, some members of Dio, Vivian Campbell and Jimmy Bain, were taking part in an interview on the radio station. And one of the DJs basically said, like, hey, why isn't there like any heavy metal people in We Are the World? And like Jimmy Bain joked, he's like, yeah, maybe we'll do our own version, call it Hearing Aid, like, you know, and they thought that was funny. But I guess that like was enough to plant a seed. By the time they got back to their apartment that night, they were like, hey, maybe we should
say
do
that
our
again.
Yeah, hey, what? But yeah, they planted the seed that like actually sparked inspiration for them to get writing on their own version of like a, you know, call to action, essentially like a charity single. So they wrote the music, but they felt like, well, we're just, you know, a couple guys in a band. Like we probably need some other people to kind of build some traction on this. So they thought, we'll write the music and approach Ronnie James Dio, our band leader, to be involved, because that would definitely be the way that it would gain some traction and maybe get some other people involved. So at the time they were recording their third album, Sacred Heart, and they, you know, wanted to approach Ronnie in the studio. Now, like at the same time, Ronnie was kind of going through like a dark period. So he's like trying to get this album made, but he's also was dealing with this like brief separation from his wife and manager, Wendy. So it's like they kind of discussed like this is a pretty dark period. He's kind of bringing this outside stuff into the recording session. Like before, maybe on the previous album, there was like a lot of camaraderie. They were hanging out, but now they were kind of like they would come in, finish their parts, and they would just like go their separate ways. So it was like just felt very tense in the studio. So they brought the music and said, hey, would you be interested in doing this? We think it's a good idea. And he like immediately shut it down. He's like, this is going to distract you guys from doing the album. We should be focusing on the record. Like, I'm okay. So, but they thought it was still a good enough idea that they kept pressing him for the next couple weeks. And then actually, I think maybe seeing what was actually going on overseas, and his wife actually persuaded him to take part in it. So he came back and did it. And Ronnie was kind of described, you know, if you watch the documentary, he's kind of described as like a bit of a control freak. So they knew that. They were like, we're going to give him full autonomy to write the lyrics. He's going to be the arranger. He produced it. And he kind of like went kind of into business mode. I mean, maybe this was like an avenue for him to really just kind of like dump himself in it and really go nuts. So I don't know, but he's on board, right? So now the project, it was called like legitimately like Hearing Aid. Now it's Hear in Aid, right? Rock and roll. Mm-hmm. They began working through their connections in the music industry with the assistance of a publicist named Sharon Wise, who represented a lot of people, will come to find. So Rob Halford from Judas Priest was like pretty much one of the first people to sign on. This followed by like members of Queensryche, Dokken, Twisted Sister, as well as Ted Nugent.
Damn Yankees.
Yeah, that was yeah. He some very interesting quotes. Like,
of course,
there was one.
Should go hunting more.
There's at one point like in the they released like a behind the scenes, like obviously in the music video they had a camera crew and they filmed the whole thing, and there's like after the single was released they put out like a VHS tape where it's like interviews with people, and I kid you not, this is not something that I am putting in Ted Nugent's mouth. He said it himself. He's like,
and everybody in the world, I think at this point in time, is like clamoring for an opportunity to become involved, to try and right any wrong that they can, and to apply their energies into, you know, getting some corn to the starving folks and getting some problems solved over, especially in Ethiopia and around the world, not only in the foreign countries, but right here in the good old U.S.A. And I was up north fishing, and if I could have stayed an extra couple days, I would have caught enough for everybody. But I figured if I came here, I could at least sing this song that Ronnie and the boys put together.
Yeah, I was just up fishing. If I had known what was going on over there, I could have caught anything to feed everybody in Africa.
This is like when they interviewed Mark Wahlberg about being on one of the planes.
Yeah, 100%. And then even there's a Louder Sound article where Eddie from Twisted Sister, he's like, yeah, I remember being next to Ted Nugent, and he was like, my guitar playing, my solos could have stopped world hunger, basically. Like, like normal things to say to people, like a normal thing you would say. I've done more for Africa, like on my hunts, because like I kill these big game animals, and like we donate all the meat to like the different villages and stuff like that. Like I'm just doing so much. I'm such a great dude in person, right?
Oof. Can I say this before we continue this?
Yeah.
All right. We Are the World. Massive.
Yeah.
As you said, one of the biggest singles of all time, at least, even to this day. The ego in that room, obviously, Quincy Jones, Lionel Richie, Michael Jackson, Bruce Springsteen, was Madonna involved? Like huge stars, right?
Cyndi Lauper.
Thank you. Massive stars. But I somehow feel like the ego in the room of the song we're discussing now was probably much bigger than that because of all of these guys. Like, holy shit, I can't wait.
So I mentioned like they're calling all these people are wanting to get involved. They're trying to lock down, like much like the, other singles, they're trying to lock down people, like notable people within their genre to like, make the most impact. And even Vivian Campbell, who's like 23 at the time, is trying to get a hold of John Bon Jovi, calls him like 14 times, even gets his mother on the phone, but
Johnny,
no luck. He does not get John Bon Jovi. Like Sharon Wise, she reached out to several people that were involved in like USA for Africa to like make some more connections. So like Wise reached out to Michael Brokaw in hopes of getting a meeting with Ken Cragen, who helped organize USA for Africa. Instead, of Brokaw suggested that she contact Marty Rogel again. Sorry, Marty. Marty was the head of USA for Africa. And so this meeting actually was pretty beneficial because Marty was able to connect them with all of the donated like goods and services, like from the, the film crew, I believe, maybe the lighting crew, like all of the stuff that they had been able to utilize for USA for Africa, they got to use for Hearing Aid. So like I think she said that there might have been like around $500,000 worth in services and goods that they were able to procure through this meeting. So, and even her, like being a publicist, she represented Lindsey Buckingham from Fleetwood Mac, of course. And I think they were able to like use some of the backdrop stuff that they did on their Mirage tour for like the studio when they were filming and everything. So there's like all these sorts of connections within the music industry that are like coming in for this heavy metal charity single.
I'm glad you quickly said from Fleetwood Mac, because I was milliseconds away from saying like, oh, from the Palace.
God. Leave that in there.
So, and they also connected with Bob Geldof. She just I think they wanted to make sure that they weren't like, maybe they were doing it the right way. I think they, wanted to make sure everything was structured. Maybe they wanted to get some advice on like how to do it. But Bob, like, he was asking a lot of questions on the phone. I think they called him on a telex, like that old, like a combination, like phone and like fax machine type of
My God.
thing. And he was good. He gave them their blessing. Even Ken Cragen, I think, even made a trip to the studio to kind of like just see how it was going, just because it was inspired by what they had done, right?
Sure.
So, moving ahead, the initial tracking sessions for Stars, the single, took place on April 1st, 1985 at the world-renowned Sound City Studios, right?
Oh, wow. Okay.
They utilized two drummers. Of course, they, procured their own drummer in Dio, Vinny Appice, and Frankie Banali from Quiet Riot. According to Sharon Wise, Brian May from Queen and also Nikki Sixx from Motley Crue were supposed to be involved in the tracking sessions, but did not show up.
One of those guys has some class.
Yeah. Could you imagine if like fucking Brian May and Nikki Sixx together in a room?
Like Brian May, he's legitimately a rocket scientist, correct?
Yeah, he's like
intelligent,
like got a
human
doctorate.
being.
Like he's very smart, made some of the best music of all time. And then there's like the guy from Motley Crue, the bass player from Motley Crue.
Bass player.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so they finished this tracking session. I think they sent like demos out to most people, just so they had like the backing track and the melody to familiarize themselves with like the song. Eddie from Twisted Sister states that he got his copy like a week before, And then they were like all the guitarists were given like 12 bars essentially to do solos.
Oh God.
Eric Bloom, though, from Blue Oyster Cult, says that he didn't hear any of the music until he arrived at his hotel from New York. So, and just before going into the studio. So maybe some of the guys got their tapes in time. Maybe some guys didn't get it at all. Who knows? The main sessions for their stars actually took place from May 20th through the 21st in 1985 at Hollywood's A&M Studios, the very same studios where they recorded We Are the World. Guitar solos were apparently scheduled to be recorded at regular intervals during the first day of recording, May 20th, with Neil Schon from Journey being the first to do so around noon. However, I think Sean basically like called at like 6:30 in the morning and said, I have the flu. Like, I don't know what to do. So Wise basically told him to go back to bed, and they arranged for a later flight. So he did end up making it, but he wasn't like the first to record a solo, I think. And that also makes Journey technically the only band to have members both on We Are the World and Hearing Aid. So that's like kind of a weird little thing there.
Oh God. Who's the original vocalist of Journey? That's
Steve Perry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Joe's brother.
Yeah.
Tyler's.
It's Tyler's cousin. It's what a, like you mentioning like Blue Oyster Cult, like what a weird cut to have on this, because like, you know, Blue Oyster Cult was big in the late 70s. Like that was kind of their era, and it's so odd to have that on here. Like, you know, I could say like we can crack jokes about Ted Nugent all day, and I fucking would continue to do that, but like I think Damn Yankees was big around this time, maybe right after. So like he's still contemporary, but like some of the guys they reached out to.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, for sure. I'll run through that list and you can tell me.
Fuck.
But you know, so they had all these people that they organized to get there, like damn near like I think it was like maybe 40 or so people. They all surprisingly showed up on time to the studio. They like all were kind of staying at the same hotel. You know, they were all hanging out together. I think again, Eddie from Twisted Sisters said they would like go to the strip club and then hang out at the Rainbow and all the sorts of stuff that these people in LA are doing. But you know, they're being brought over in like a Hollywood Fantasy Tours double-decker bus to the studio to record. One person that was late had a pretty good reason, I will say. So Michael McKean, aka David St. Hubbins, was one of the few people that was late because he was actually shooting the film Clue at Paramount at the same time.
Oh.
So he had to come over
Hell yeah.
to the studio and change into his Spinal Tap gear in the men's room.
He was Professor Green in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, he, like both of those guys took time to come out, and they were like in full character, and apparently the fucking, they were like the kings of the session, because they were just like everybody, you know, being in this kind of world and the time that it was, they were like sharing stories because they had seen the movie, and they were like pretty much shit that had happened to them in real life. And my favorite is like Michael McKean basically just like roasting Yngwie Malmsteen like the whole time.
Oh, thank you.
There's a part in the documentary where David St. Hubbins goes,
I met an Yngwie Malmsteen person, you know, and once you get the hang of his name, you know, he's really incredible. I really did. I bought his album the other day, and I threw my guitar out. I said, why bother? Why bother, you know? Use it as a coffee table, you know, because I can't play the thing like that. He's great. I like the way he puts Yngwie J. Malmsteen on his album, so you know you don't confuse him with all the other Yngwie Malmsteens in the business.
Oh, to be a fly on the wall with that conversation.
Dio said,
like,
Dio said, somebody asked, how do you spell Yngwie? And then one of the Spinal Tap guys goes, ASSH. But apparently he was, surprisingly, but from what I remember reading in the interviews, like Yngwie he was loving it. Everybody, I think there was some tension in the room. Like, you think that like a lot of these people probably did know each other being in like the Los Angeles, like, you know, hair metal scene, but a lot of these people had never met each other before. And some of them, they're like, you know, Ronnie James Dio, Judas Priest, like they're idols. So they're kind of like, they got their guards up, or like maybe you only know of a person portrayed on the cover of magazines and like maybe how they're viewed in the public eye. So there's a bit of like trying to fill out the space, but I guess having these guys from Spinal Tap there kind of like allowed people to like, you know, just have fun and do whatever.
I wish there would have been like a sequel to the movie or some follow-up like immediately after this song had been recorded or the video, like something something that they could have brought material to like right after immediately.
So, you know, I mentioned Ronnie and like the members of Dio. They're basically kind of orchestrating the whole thing. They're, you know, telling people where to go and like what to do. And so people, I think they said they started around noon, and you kind of have people like circulating in and out. And they basically just like went until they were tired. People would stay around for hours, even if they weren't playing, just to watch other people perform. And, you know, while there wasn't any people like admitting to any like drugs and stuff being around, they kind of alluded like, this is LA in the 80s. The people that are there. It's probably safe to say that there was something like people are, you know, under the influence of something. They at 10, so you're going from like noon at 10 p.m. apparently on the first day. Ronnie prepared to rehearse the choir and appointed Kevin DeBrow of Quiet Riot to keep order because he had the loudest voice, is what he said. And the choir, if we kind of look back at it, most of the people in the choir are not the like main frontmen.
Correct.
Really, the only person that I can recall is Rob Halford, and he's showing off. He's like singing a full like octave above all of these guys.
Go figure.
But Ronnie was kind of impressed that the choir sounded like a choir. Kind of went off with it. Once the vocals were completed, they spent about another day and a half getting the guitars down. So, and I'm sure with like all of those
guys. That's how long the solo is.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
They literally
36 fucking hours.
I couldn't imagine.
One take.
Because it's like, I'll say this. This is what I'll say. They pretty much got a lot of the same vocalists and the same guitar players to be on this track. If I didn't know who was on it, there's really no distinguishing who the fuck is doing what. But
so at one point I went, that's Kevin DeBrow. And then I went, no, that's Kevin DeBrow. And then I went, no, that's Kevin DeBrow. Like there was like 4 of them that all had the same like dark brown mullet and like same jaw structure. I was like, who are these guys?
So I'll run you through the list here. Here's the full roster for Hearing Aid. Lead vocals, the guys singing the verses. We obviously have Ronnie James Dio. We have Dave Menichetti from Y&T, Rob Halford from Judas Priest, Kevin DeBrow from Quiet Riot, Eric Bloom from Blue Oyster Cult, Paul Shortino from Rough Cut, Jeff Tate from Queensryche, shout out Matt Graham, and Don Dokken from Dokken. On bass, you have Jimmy Bain from Dio. Drums, you had 2, Vinny Appice from Dio, Frankie Banali from Quiet Riot, as mentioned earlier. On keyboards, Claude Schnell from Dio. The chorus is as follows. So you had pretty much everybody that I mentioned from Dio. You have several members of Rough Cut, Dave Alford, Amir Dirac, Chris Hager, and Matt Thor. You have Carmine Appice from Vanilla Fudge and King Cobra. You have Mark Stein from King Cobra, Frankie Banali, and Carlos Cavazzo and Rudy Sarzo from Quiet Riot. Mick Brown and Jeff Pilson and George Lynch from Dokken, Chris Holmes from W.A.S.P, Blackie Lawless from W.A.S.P, Mick Mars and Vince Neil from Motley Crue, Buck Dharma and Brad Gillis. Oh, I'm sorry, Buck Dharma from Blue Oyster Cult, Brad Gillis from Night Ranger, Craig Goldie from Gafria, Eddie Ojeda from Twisted Sister, Neil Schon from Journey, Yngwie Malmsteen, Ted Nugent, Tommy Aldridge, formerly of Black Oak, Arkansas, Ozzy Osbourne, so many, and then Michael McKean and Harry Shearer from Spinal Tap.
Oh, it wasn't Nigel Tufnell.
That's right. It's bass player and vocalist.
Derek Smalls.
Yep, Derek Smalls.
Yeah.
I hope this happened. I hope RJD and Rob had a nice conversation of like, should we let Vince sing? And then they saw him in the studio and heard him, and they're like, backing choir. I think we're good on this one. Yeah, they definitely chose. There's some interesting choices there of bands like Y&T, not a huge band, not a massive band, right? Like,
this was it. This would have been their peak. Like
Yeah,
a lot of these bands, like I'd never
Yeah.
heard of Rough Cut before. in
No,
my
that's
life.
a new one for me. And I've read a ton of shit about this stuff. But seeing the vocals that they chose, they definitely chose the guys that were really well at their craft at this point in time. Absolutely. Like Halford, and having Halford and like Dio alone, like, you can't bitch about that.
I mean, like, there's definitely people that I would say, stand out more so than others for me. But like, again, this is LA, it's 85. It's not hard to like get, there's probably like, you probably could have threw something down like, hey, dude from Y&T, like, what are you doing? Get in here right now.
So you mentioned the Rainbow earlier too. Do you think this was pre-Lemmy hanging out in the back corner of the Rainbow, or is this during that period?
I'm sure. Well, there is a Motorhead connection on this I'll get to.
Okay.
But so Stars was completed, and it was just before Dio had left in like August of 85 for the Sacred Heart tour. This was delayed because they wanted to add some more contributions. So like Dave Murray and Adrian Smith, who are in the video, they were on their World Slavery tour, and they had to like fly in. They weren't there for like the chorus part, but they were able. They didn't even do solos. Surprisingly, they just did like guitar melodies alongside Vivian Campbell.
Totally makes complete sense to have those guys do that.
July 4th, there was a July 14th session apparently in Philadelphia that was arranged to have Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin. It was the day after Live Aid. And so Ronnie James Dio, Wendy, and Sharon all flew out to meet him, but he canceled without any explanation. So he's not on it. So not only was this delayed because of like, they wanted to include any additional people they could, obtaining legal permission from all of the band's record labels was a fucking nightmare, apparently.
Yep.
So it was like, trying to, which is like weird to me. I mean, it's not so crazy to think that a record label would just be like, oh, this is a song for charity. Well, like, what are we going to do? Like, how are we, how are our guys represented in this shit, or like signing permissions for this bullshit?
I'm sure at the time, but up until like the early 2000s, a lot of people's record contracts included like parts that said they like literally cannot do anything musically other than what that's why like United Nations, the punk band, they all wore masks because they were under record contracts that said they couldn't be in other bands. So
think about James Hetfield on the Danzig record. He's uncredited because the label said otherwise, right?
There's a ton of that shit. There's so much. Like just recently, and like within the last couple of days, there was an interview done with Jay Weinberg. And he's like, for years, I wasn't allowed to do anything else artistically because of the contract I signed. It wasn't a label, but it's very reminiscent of this. And it's like, in this era, those record labels, those big ones, for sure. They were like, yep, you're locked up for years. Fuck you. And if it wasn't like bartering of like, how much are we getting? They would probably have some negotiation of like, well, you can't have Bon Jovi, but you can have this band, or you can have this artist. Like, you can't have him because he's him and he has to have center attention or whatever.
Sure.
Like, but you can get one of these guys. It's fucking crazy.
So not only that, but they're kind of shopping this around, I think, and the Polygram label, they basically were like, okay, you could really, like, this is going to get released as a single, but we also think it would probably get promoted better if it were like a full LP. So they had to, again, secure some other songs. Some other bands, like, basically, I don't know if they like donated or they provided like live tracks to the rest of the album. So you had Stars that kind of opens it up. You also had Up to the Limit, which was like a live single from Accept, was like from 85. It was featured on an EP. On the Road by Motorhead, it was like a Hammersmith Odeon. It was from the birthday party video from 85. Distant Early Warning by Rush. That's a live track from 84. Heaven's on Fire, a live version from 84. I'm going to get to this. This is like, okay, so you have a bunch of live tracks like Hungry for Heaven from Dio, that makes sense, from 85. There's a bonus track from Y&T called Go for the Throat, a live version of The Zoo by the Scorpions. And then for some fucking reason, Can You See Me, the Jimi Hendrix Experience. It is not like a crazy unreleased version. It is literally just a song from the album as far as I can tell. So you have all these versions of these live tracks from bands that like make sense. And then for whatever reason, the Jimi Hendrix Experience.
Even the fucking Rush cut got me. I was like, why? I mean, of all the things,
but that makes more sense to me than a song from 67 being on there.
It's like, here's Rush doing, like, it's a contemporary track, right? But it's like, here's Rush. Yeah, just, do we have an old Hendrix track we can put on there for some reason? Oh.
Right. Like, it makes zero sense to me.
Isn't like the people, the estate, the Hendrix estate, aren't they like known for being hard to like get a hold of?
I wonder,
I'm sure.
I wonder if like whatever label or like just had rights to this somehow, and they're like, yeah, this'll do it. This'll get on there. So yeah, there's a version of the record that has that on there. You know, and then I think this came out in like early January 86. Like with all the delays, it eventually got released. They also did like a VHS I mentioned, where you have like the music video that we watched and then also the making of the actual song itself. It was released in October. So you have like all these delays because they're trying to get more people. They're trying to get permission. They're trying to get these other like random songs compiled to like help try to promote that record. And then Polygram actually pushes it back even further because they're going to do a re-release of Band Aid's Do They Know Christmas. So they didn't want it to like be too close together. So by the time the single actually did come out in early 86, it was pretty much a year after We Are the World. And the famine had been pretty, like, it's, I don't know if it was like officially over, but it would like decline, like or at least in the public eye, it had declined. So it was like kind of past maybe when it would have been most impactful for people to like hear it. I mean, it's still prolonged, like, you know, at least awareness, but it wasn't as impactful as like some of the other singles that had come out. I think at one point they said that they actually did get to perform it live during that tour cycle that I mentioned. It was at the Irvine Meadows Amphitheater, July 26, 1986. They had like a handful of people come up on stage and actually perform it. Other than that, Vivian Campbell leaves the band. I think he gets fired from Dio like mid-tour, briefly joins Whitesnake, and then eventually joins Def Leppard in
92.
But the relief efforts, they kind of say it estimated between $1 million and $3 million through the sale of the single, album, video, merchandise sales. Kind of unlike Live Aid and Band Aid stuff, they say that they actually did establish an accredited nonprofit, and funds were directly used through the UN World Food Program to purchase and deliver like farm equipment to Ethiopian farmers. So, you know, they say that like, hey, this was like pretty, you know, important in kind of shifting the public opinion. It raised money for relief efforts. I have some opinions about it. Like outside the music itself, like I think it's great that this was able to happen, and I think it was like the intentions were good. You know, they kind of like frame this thing as like being like, well, the other stuff is not as inclusive, but if you notice, there's really not there's no women involved in the like they had several women that could have been
sure.
It was like a boys club thing, like Lita Ford.
Yep.
Doro Pesh would have been easy to get in there.
Yep.
You know,
Easy.
where's Wendy O. Williams, any of the girl school people, like I just thought it was interesting that it's not crazy to me that didn't happen, but I feel like it would have been really easy to happen. I think Lita Ford or maybe W.A.S.P was in the live performance that I mentioned, but seemingly absent from the actual like recording of it. Another thing that kind of doesn't get mentioned too is that like, and this is more maybe a problem at large with like Band Aid and some of the relief efforts, is that the money raised, like a lot of people say, or a lot of the things that I've read say that it wasn't really like allocated the best, because they just raised the money, but didn't really like follow through on like how it was getting funded, because the money was just basically given to the government in Ethiopia, which, as we kind of discussed earlier, was using money to not do much about the famine. They were kind of using it into, buying weapons and kind of trying to, kind of like staunch out these like rebellions and such. So there's a lot of money that's like not being given directly to the people who need it the most. At least with this, I don't know how it was done. I don't know what the the nonprofit did. Apparently they say that they were able to like provide, farm equipment directly to farmers who needed it. I don't know. I wasn't there. I didn't do it. I wasn't there during the meeting or the hearings for that, but like, I do feel like there's like this kind of view in like the grand scheme of things of all these like charity singles that like, man, this was great. They're like huge, massive, like legendary performances, Live Aid, and then it kind of doesn't really get talked about enough that like maybe there were some issues that were glossed over with that. Doesn't really get enough attention. There was actually a Spin article that I read called Live Aid, The Terrible Truth from 2015 that kind of like runs through this a little bit. So I would recommend reading that instead of like listening to me ramble through it. But all this to say, what did you guys think? What did you hear? That's the story of Hearing Aid.
This is sitting in one of your old homes in Bowling Green at 3 a.m. in the morning, and this gets played. I can only imagine how often you and your brother have done that, probably recently.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past either one of us. Like I know this pretty much by heart. Like I've listened to this so many times. Apparently they've been talking about reissuing this forever. Like Wendy has been talking about doing like a kind of reissue treatment. Like it was, originally done in like vinyl and cassette. I think she would like to have done it in like CD, and there's some maybe unused footage that she would like to put a DVD together for. She'd been talking about doing that since like 2011. I think there was even going to be like technically like a sequel version with more contemporary artists doing like an updated version of this. And basically, like this has been every so often it kind of comes up. I think it actually did come up as recent as this year that maybe Metal Blade might be kind of backing this, and they might be doing like a new physical format of it, like a new like reissue of it. It's supposed to maybe have like a book that kind of like comes with it that has like photos and all such a sort of things. And I think the funds would go to Ronnie James Dio's like cancer foundation. But yeah, so I don't know if I don't know where that is in the process. Again, this has been like 10 plus years in the making, but
I hope they damper their expectations, because I don't think it's going to sell quite as well as the original one.
Well, if they don't have that Jimi Hendrix song on there, I don't know how it would.
They'll choose a equally. They'll do Purple Haze, one that makes equally as little fucking sense in the context of the record.
This thing will be a picture disc sold on fucking Record Store Day that they'll press 3,000 of, and will live in fucking bins for years just to end up in a fucking landfill, thus causing more fucking problems to the globe. Fuck, just it happened. You don't remaster, repress everything. Like there are certain things that are like, sorry,
they won't be able to. Your favorite fucking indie band won't be able to release a record on time because they gotta make 30,000 copies of this picture.
Like, Banana Split soundtrack.
I knew it was coming. I knew you were gonna bring it up.
The Banana Split soundtrack, man. Like, how many of those fuckers do we need? Like, I get it. Nostalgia and all this, and like someone would buy it. Someone would buy it. I have been to record stores enough where I've seen like the old codger roll and go like, "You got this," and it's like, what format? CD. I'm like, dude, it is 26.
Give me the laser disc version of this.
Give me the fucking 8-track.
Obviously, metal is like not in a place that it was in the mid 80s.
Sure.
Who would they get to be?
I don't know.
This
there was like at the time, I don't know if like at the time, I think I saw some names of like certain people. I think people when it first got like announced like that it was kind of in play in like 2011, people were like, oh, maybe Tim Ripper Owens or somebody like that is gonna do it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know who would be involved with it now. Yeah, who knows? But I just wanted to. Recently, like, it came into my brain. I'm like, this is a thing. I was making a long drive and I was listening to it, and I just wanted to talk about it. And it ended up doing more research than I thought I would, and it spans, borders and eras and different people, and it's kind of I don't know, like, for all its problems, it happened. Like, this is the most it could have only happened at this point, I think.
Yeah,
like this would have been
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
let it stay there. It's a fucking moment in time that the 80s were so fucking crazy. Like, just every form of media, of audio media could have essentially taken place in the 1980s. I mean, from the underground to, what was popular in pop culture, like, so much shit took place, and there's stuff that can never be recreated. Even with like kind of the craziness of the early 90s and like all the different bands that were being signed to these major labels, like weird bands, right? Like Helmet is being signed to the same major label that some pop star is on, or like Bjork's huge, and like all this other stuff. But like the 80s were so fucking weird and like kitschy in a way.
I feel like that ensemble, like, charity thing was like so big, and like everybody was trying to do it. Maybe even not just for charity, just like have like, hey, everybody's doing the song. Like, I think of, not long after this, like the Super Bowl Shuffle, like the Bears like made their own song and released a single. The fucking WWF song, the big like ensemble cast of that was. So like,
wasn't there
Wrestle Rock Rumble?
No,
was
that's
another
not
one
what I'm thinking about. Same gang, West Coast Rap All Stars. That's a little bit later. It's like early 90s. But
okay,
who was on it?
Dr. Dre produced it.
Yeah,
Tone Loc,
okay.
Ice-T, Dr. Dre, MC Ren, Young MC, Digital Underground, MC Hammer, Eazy-E.
I feel like the kind of the charity thing became more like commonplace. Like, you see, like, now we have like so many, specials and sort of like live events or like special evenings or recordings or whatever of like people trying to like raise money at like that level, right? So I guess if anything, like, it affected that. I guess it affected like, how like pop culture, like for these kind of like specialty like ensemble things. But yeah, the 80s were crazy, and I guess metal was wrapped up in it in some capacity.
I frankly am not surprised.
Yeah. Austin's read this book because we've talked about it. There was the book Bang Your Head, right? Red and Yellow book. You've probably still got yours. I think mine just fell apart. And that was one of the first books I got like around about like heavy music.
It was definitely more, that one was definitely more like garnered towards like this style 100%. And era.
Yes. And obviously I think you and I probably both thought, oh, we might get something more akin to Sound of the Beast,
yes,
which we found
100%.
Later. This was more like early heavy metal, like hard rock bands of the 70s. Van Halen was a big focus on that, but like it basically entails like all the extravagance and all of like decadence and all of just the like egregious shit that era and that kind of LA music did. And it could only have happened with that LA group. It really could. Like, yeah, you've got a couple guys on here that were,
New York,
idols by that
London,
point. Yeah.
whatever.
But it all kind of ties into that, and it's like, yep, that would be the group that would do it.
Yeah.
There's not the New York hardcore bands or something like that doing this shit. Like of this time, it's like, what are we doing? Like, okay, go for it. Fucking go for it.
I would love to hear like a wrong side of the tracks, fucking Biohazard style. Fucking
dude, just they have to have Harley in his own room.
Oh yeah,
like his own vocal booth.
So I'm gonna use this as a way to transition into our recommendations because I feel like we could just go on and on about this forever. But again, not the first band to do it. Predating Hearing Aid, there's a Canadian version of like the Band Aid type thing called Northern Lights. It's called Tears Are Not Enough. It was released in 1985. The Canadian version features artists like Gordon Lightfoot, Anne Murray, Joni Mitchell, Neil Young, Geddy Lee, Bryan Adams, Alan Thicke, John Candy, Catherine O'Hara, Eugene Levy, Paul Schaefer. So there's like a whole other version that I highly recommend checking out just for like the historical context of it. You got to do it. Other than that, I'm going to go ahead and recommend the new Selenoplexia single, The Battle of Agrites, Glory of the Holy Warfare. It's going to be off of their upcoming sophomore record, Beneath the Lunar Tyrant, that is slated to be released October 9th of this year. It's supposed to be like a 37-minute long record, kind of like they describe it as like a black metal epic and like 5 chapters. It's much like the previous record, there's a through line. There is like a kind of a storytelling aspect of this band. They recorded with Colin Marston in his new studio. This is the first and only single for the record, and it's great. They have like so many different influences from like fucking math rock and black metal to like kind of like dungeon synthy shit. There's like cleaner vocals that I've never heard this band do on this record. Friends of the show, they're fucking amazing. I got to hear some of the early kind of pieces of this record, and I'm really excited to hear how the full thing sounds. So definitely check it out. I don't know at what point the physical formats of this record will be available. We'll definitely keep you posted. So check it out.
My recommendation, I think maybe the last time I was on the show, my recommendation was Emma Ruth Rundle's single, where I talked about how she was going to be on tour with Cinderwell. And since then, I listened to the new Cinderwell record. The new record, A Blooming Body, it is out through Hen House Studios, which is a record label. It came out on July 17th. As I mentioned, she's going to be on the full band Emma Ruth Rundle tour that I think maybe starts in late November, goes through December. I'm going to the Nashville show. Dope, dark, maybe gloomy, bulky shit.
That project opened for Pallbearer last year sometime, and I got to see them. It was really fucking good, especially like having something like that prior to like just Foundations of Bird and shit. Like just
I'm already I'm already depressed. So now I'll just be
So I'm just gonna wallow in it now for the next hour and a half. My recommendation is what Austin said. Check out Selenoplexia's new single. Like that shit's. I can't wait for the physicals of that one. The artwork is sick. The production quality is great. I mean, it's Colin Marston. The progression of this band from their prior full length release is really interesting and really fun. There's definitely a far more progressive kind of progressive blackened vibe to their version of death metal that is really, really interesting and enticing. There's some like enslaved kind of vibes going on in this. The clean vocals for sure kind of catch you off guard in a really exciting way. Great shit.
Yeah.
Really good shit.
Yeah. Love them. Check it out. Check those out. The links are down below. You can also check out our official playlist, Riffs on Repeat, Hits from the Crypt. Wherever you stream music, you can also follow us at Riff Worship Pod, Instagram, Twitter, email us at riffworshippod@gmail.com. We'll got a bunch of stuff coming up, maybe some guests. But other than that, for myself, for Dylan, for Swindle, and the group Here in Aid. You've been listening to Riff Worship. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.